Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we are going to understand number one, the distinction between active voice and passive voice. Number two, the context in which active voice and passive voice sentences can be used. And number three, the rules to convert an active voice sentence into a passive voice one and vice versa. So let's get started now. Before we proceed further, we must be familiar with these three basic concepts. The first one is the subject. Subject is the formal label of the initial part in a sentence. And mostly, the subject itself is the doer of the action in a sentence. So, doer of the action happens to be subject's functional label. Now, verb is the action in the sentence, and then object is the part of the sentence that follows the verb of the sentence. An object also has a function, and that is it is receiver of the action done by the subject. So therefore, receiver of the action is the functional label of the object. Now, object is also an inseparable part of a verb, particularly the transitive verb, because if such verbs are not accompanied by the object, they will not be able to make complete sense, or the actions indicated by such transitive verbs will not be complete. Therefore, object is compulsory. Also, this concept of object is at the heart of this entire phenomenon called active voice and passive voice. Because object, that means the element on which action is done, is absent, then we cannot call it an active voice sentence. At the same time, there is no question of converting such a sentence into its passive voice counterpart. As we are discussing active voice and passive voice, it is also important to know the concept of voice. So voice is related to verb, and this voice of the verb tells us whether the subject of the sentence is the doer of the action or the receiver of the action. Now when it comes to active voice, we know the subject of such an active voice sentence is necessarily the doer of the action, and the object in such sentences will be the receiver of the action, and we call such sentences active voice sentences. Now when this happens just the other way around, that means when the subject of the sentence is not the doer of the action, we call such sentences passive voice sentences. Here are some examples which would help us understand the distinction between subject and object. So in the first sentence, Manoj is the subject because it is the first part of the sentence, and English exam is the object because this part will be impacted by the action done by the subject. Next, Madhu is the subject and mangoes are the object. As a result of, let's say, subject's action, mangoes will get eaten. So therefore, they are the receiver of the action or the object in the sentence. The company is the subject and some new policies are the object. As a result of company's, let's say, initiative, some new policies will get introduced. So they will receive the action done by the company. Then final one is a metaphorical sentence, which means rain brings joy. So whenever it rains, what will happen? Joy will be brought, or we will feel happy. Therefore, rain is the subject and joy is the object here. Active voice. So we already know whenever the subject of a sentence is the doer of the action, we call such sentences active voice sentences. For example, Nitish loves his friends. So here Nitish is both the subject and the doer of the action. At the same time, his friends are both the object and the receiver of the action in this sentence. Next one, my father has paid the electricity bill. So my father, he is both again the subject and the doer of the action, and the electricity bill is the object and the receiver of the action in this sentence. God bless you. So God is going to be the doer of the action as well as the subject here, and you would be benefited by the action done by the God there. That means you will be blessed. So you is the object or the receiver of the action. Next, she was singing a song. She happens to be both the subject and the doer of the action, and song is the receiver of the action or object in this sentence. And the final one, everyone, is the subject and the doer of the action in this sentence, and English test is the kind of object or receiver of the action in this sentence. Passive voice. In a passive voice sentence, the receiver of the action or the object of the active voice sentence gets more focused. Also, when we convert an active voice sentence into its passive voice counterpart, two changes take place. The first is about the position. That means the subject of the active voice sentence will be pushed towards the end in the passive voice sentence. At the same time, the object of the active voice sentence will occupy the initial position in the passive voice sentence. Next change is about the forms of verbs. So in case the active voice sentence is either in simple present tense or simple past tense or simple future tense, we will have to add one helping verb before the past participle form of the main verb in the passive voice sentence. Here are some examples. His friends are loved by him. So his friends were the kind of object of the active voice sentence. Now they have received more focus because they have occupied the initial position or the subject position. However, they still are not the doer of the action. They are still the receiver of the action. And are is added here because the active voice sentence was in the simple present tense. At the same time, friends is a plural noun, and love has already received its past participle form. It has become loved, and now the subject or the doer of the action of the active voice sentence has been kind of connected by the preposition by here. And there is also one more change, that is about the form of the pronoun there. So he has become him here. Next one, the electricity bill, which was the object in the active voice sentence, has now received more focus because it has occupied the subject position, but it is not the doer of the action. And there is some more change related to tense, which we will discuss in the later part of this, let's say, lecture. Now, my father, which was the kind of doer of the action of the active voice sentence, has been pushed towards the end and connected by the preposition by. God bless you has also been converted into passive voice as may you be blessed by God. So you, which was the object in the active voice sentence, has now kind of occupied the initial position, and be has been added as a helping verb. Then bless has become blessed, that means the past participle form, and the doer of the action is again connected by the preposition by here. Next, a song was being sung by him. So a song has now received more focus, which was the object in the active voice sentence earlier, and he was the doer of the action, which has been kind of sort of pushed towards the end and connected by the preposition by there. There's also some more change in terms of let's say verb forms and also the tense there, which we will discuss in the next part. And final one, the English test must be attended. So English test has now received more focus. Earlier it was at the kind of let's say end part of the active voice sentence. So this is how passive voice sentences are the ones that give more importance to the receiver of the action. Here is the rule number 1, which says that if we wish to convert an active voice sentence with continuous tense in it into its passive voice counterpart, the passive voice sentence will take the word being, which will be placed between the helping verb and the main verb of the sentence. So here are the examples. They are watching the movie, and then the passive voice is the movie is being watched by them. So here in the second sentence, we have added the word being because the first sentence, that means the active voice sentence, is actually in continuous tense. Here is the rule number 2, according to which if we wish to convert an active voice sentence with perfect tense in it into its passive voice counterpart, then we will have to add the word been, which will be placed between the helping verb and the past participle form of the main verb. Here are the examples. I have arranged a party, and a party has been arranged by me. So in the passive voice second sentence, we have added the word been between the helping verb and the past participle form of the main verb, because the first sentence, that means the active voice sentence, is actually in perfect tense. Our next rule says that if the active voice sentence consists of a command or order, or maybe a piece of advice or a request, and when we try to convert such sentences into their passive voice counterparts, we will have to begin the passive voice sentences with the word let, and then the helping verb be will be added before the past participle form of the main verb. For example, switch the lights on will become let the lights be switched on. Next, if the active voice sentence has some negative command or order or instruction in it, and we try to convert that into its passive voice counterpart, then we will have to add the word not in that. So for example, don't touch it will become let it not be touched, or you are warned not to touch it. Another rule says that if the active voice sentence expresses some common belief or opinion, and we try to convert that sentence into its passive voice counterpart, then we will have to begin the sentence with one of these phrases. It can be either it is believed that, or it is said that, or it is opined that. For example, people believe that animals are innocent, and the passive voice will be it is believed that the animals are innocent. The next rule says that if the subject of an active voice sentence is one of the indefinite pronouns, and when we convert such a sentence into its passive voice counterpart, we do not have to mention it. For example, someone killed my neighbor last night, and the passive voice will be my neighbor was killed last night. And the last rule says that if the active voice sentence is a question, it will be converted into its passive voice counterpart just like a statement. For example, has he submitted the assignment, and has the assignment been submitted by him? So the first one is an active voice question, and the second one is its passive voice counterpart. And we can observe that the question marks remain constant, and the positions are interchanged. That means the subject and the object have been kind of reshuffled. Now the next one is, do you like cars? And the passive voice counterpart of this question will be, are cars liked by you? To conclude, we can say that if we wish to give more importance to the doer of the action, we must use active voice. On the other hand, if we wish to give more importance to the receiver of the action, we must use passive voice. For example, if there is a report, the report is most likely to be written in active voice because the report writer is interested in telling what he or she did there. On the other hand, if there is a mystery novel, the author might use more of passive voice because they do not want to reveal the doer of the action for the sake of suspense. Therefore, these are the functions. I hope you have made sense of the let's say concepts. We will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.